On a quiet country road, far from the hustle and bustle of city life, my leisurely trip to buy a new phone took on ominous shades, turning into a nightmare that made me doubt my sanity and even the reality of myself. Sunlight penetrated through the thick branches of trees, creating a play of light and shadow on the ground, but in my heart reigned a gloomy castle of fear that crashed upon me with irresistible force. My journey began as usual. I got into my car, filled with anticipation of the new purchase, and headed to the neighboring town where phone prices were more affordable than in our little corner of the world. The world outside seemed calm and peaceful, as if nothing could disturb its harmony. But I was mistaken. In the shadow of my reflection in the side mirror, I noticed something unusual: an old black pickup truck that seemed to be drawn to me, despite my attempts to speed up or slow down. At first, I didn't pay it any mind, thinking it was just another driver in a hurry. But as the truck drew closer and closer, I felt that something was wrong. Fear gripped me as the pickup truck began honking at me, as if trying to attract my attention to something important. I decided to yield the road to it, hoping to avoid conflict or an unpleasant situation. But when I slowed down and looked in the rearview mirror, I saw that the pickup truck had also slowed down, not letting me out of its sight. It was strange and unsettling. My thoughts were in complete disarray when I decided to stop and find out what was going on. Perhaps the driver needed help or his car broke down. But when I stopped, the pickup truck stopped too, as if following me, as if its only goal was me. I felt overwhelmed with anxiety as I approached the passenger door of the pickup truck. My heart froze when I saw the driver. His face was disfigured with burns, bloody traces, and an expression of terrible calm. I almost collapsed in horror when he silently beckoned me to him, as if wanting to say or show something. My mind was paralyzed with fear when I realized I had to run. My legs carried me as fast as they could to my car, where I locked the doors and started the engine, without thinking about the consequences. My only thought was to leave this place and never come back. Through the car windows, I saw the pickup truck following me, like a ghost from my worst nightmares. My hands were shaking as I drove, trying to find a way out of this nightmare. I knew I had to find help, find someone who would believe me, who would help me deal with this terrible threat. When I reached the nearest gas station, I ran out of the car, praying for help to come to me. But the cashier, to whom I tried to explain what had happened, only looked at me with disbelief and returned to his usual business. I was alone with this nightmare, with this unknown threat that was haunting me. I stayed there, at the gas station, looking around, trying to understand what had happened and how I should live on. But there were no answers, only fear and ignorance. It was not just an incident on the road, it was something bigger, something I couldn't understand or explain. And I knew that this nightmare would haunt me, day after day, like a ghost that wouldn't let me rest. In covenant with the ghosts of the night, when the earth seems engulfed in darkness and every rustle sounds like a warning, 4 friends once again embarked on their ritual exploration of the mysterious forest depths. Their car, burdened with anticipation and joy, glided slowly along forgotten paths leading into uncharted depths. But this time, as the sun disappeared behind the horizon and the stars ignited in their pale beauty, the sky turned into a sinister curtain descending upon the world. The forest began to converse in its ancient whispers, and then the silence was broken by a strange rumble. What usually remained confined to the depths of nocturnal dreams emerged into the light of day. Silhouettes outlined in darkness emerged from behind the trees, emitting their ferocious cries that echoed through the night's silence. The 4 friends, seized by fear, stood as if transfixed, watching as their world became an arena of nightmares. One of the friends, overwhelmed by panic, decided that the safety of the car was an illusion. His cry pierced the night silence, but his protests found no response from the monsters surrounding the car. They stood there, dark and merciless, mocking human fear, as one of the friends boldly dashed out into the night, leaving his companions to the mercy of fate. Their insane terror merged with the cries of birds and the rustling of leaves, but when the last echo of his groans faded away, the monsters vanished as if they had never existed. And on this night, when an ordinary tradition turned into a nightmare, the friends were left only with memories of senseless terror hidden behind the mask of the mundane, and with the realization that their world was forever permeated with the shadow of the unknown. The dark branches of the trees leaned over the car, as if about to tear off its roof and suck it into the depths of the night. Every bush seemed to be the source of a menacing presence, as if hiding the forest's most terrible secrets within its web. The friends sat in the car, silently assessing what was happening. The headlights illuminated the nearest stretch of road, but beyond it, darkness reigned. The crackling sounds of the night seeped through the windows, reminding them that they were not alone in this forgotten corner of the world. What was that one of them murmured, his voice trembling with fear and bewilderment? No one could give an answer. All four felt that something unknown and ominous was creeping up on them from the dark depths of the forest. The silence was so deep that it seemed as if nature itself was holding its breath in anticipation of the next horror. Suddenly, as if from somewhere deep underground, a strange noise was heard. It began quietly like a whisper, but soon turned into a roar, reminiscent of distant thunder. The hearts of the friends froze in their chests. They felt the power of the unknown reigning over them, making them feel small and helpless before the unfathomable darkness that surrounded them on all sides. And then, as if in response to their unease, the sky above them was pierced by murky darkness. The stars went out, and the moon disappeared behind the clouds, leaving the friends in complete darkness. "What's happening?" someone asked, their voice weak and trembling. But there was no answer. Instead, from the depths of the forest, strange silhouettes began to emerge. They were like ghosts, filled with dark energy, their outlines melting into the darkness like smoke. The hearts of each of the friends froze with terror. They watched as these entities approached the car, their dark eyes flashing in the darkness like fire. "What is this?" one of the friends began to shout, but his words were interrupted by a terrible scream that pierced the night. It was a cry of true despair and fear, filling the air around them. The friends felt every fiber of their beings fill with terror. One of the friends decided not to endure what was happening. He ran out of the car and into the night, leaving his companions behind. And here, as if by magic, the dark silhouettes disappeared, as if they had never existed. The friends were left alone, in the middle of the dark forest, surrounded by a grim mystery. And on that night, when an ordinary tradition turned into a nightmare, the friends realized that their innocent journeys would never be the same again. The shadow of the unknown would forever remain with them, awaiting its next moment. For many years, I avoided visiting my parents, as if I were hiding from the past within my own world. The distance between us was not only physical but also temporal, as if I felt that returning to my roots could shatter invisible walls protecting me from something unknown. My responsibilities as a student and an employee created an illusion of busyness, shielding me from the past, from seemingly long-forgotten memories and fears. However, on a dark day, a rare opportunity presented itself: vacation. Deciding to use it to visit my parents, I packed a few things and set off on my journey. The journey began as usual, but as I moved away from the bustling city and approached their secluded home, the surrounding atmosphere became increasingly ominous. The emptiness of the road began to resemble the emptiness inside me. Not a soul around, not a single car on the horizon. Just fog, which seemed to engulf everything around it. Even my reliable navigator began to behave strangely, as if trying to warn me about something I didn't know. And then, on the roadside, I saw her, a girl. Her silhouette was dissolved in darkness, her features distorted by the mist, as if she were part of this eerie landscape. My heart beat faster, and I decided to stop, hoping that she could help me understand what was happening. But my hopes were in vain. She remained silent, as if voiceless. I didn't notice how she ended up next to me in my car. Fear gripped me, and I decided to continue my journey, driving away thoughts of her, knowing that continuing to communicate with her would only worsen my situation. But the shadow of that meeting did not leave me. It possessed my thoughts, penetrating into the depths of my being. Even when I arrived at my parents' house, fear did not leave me. Every sound, every rustle seemed strange and unnatural to me. The dark shadow of that girl seemed to haunt me in my nightmares, preventing me from falling asleep. I tried to forget what happened, but no matter how hard I tried, she was always there, in my thoughts, reminding me of her existence. I began to doubt my sanity. Perhaps all this was just a product of my fevered imagination. Perhaps I was just tired and started seeing ghosts where they didn't exist. But the shadow of that girl did not leave me alone, and I realized that something was wrong. And then one day, when I returned to my car after a long walk around the surroundings, I noticed something strange. On the back seat, where the girl used to sit, there was something small and white. I approached to take a closer look, and my heart almost stopped when I realized that it was my photograph. I couldn't understand how it ended up there, or who could have put it there. I began to feel like I was losing my mind, that my consciousness was breaking under the weight of fear and an unknown threat. And then I realized that I had to leave this place, go as far away from here as possible. I got behind the wheel and drove away, leaving behind everything that connected me to this place, to these people, to this shadow that was following me. But even when I left, the shadow of that girl did not leave me. She remained in my thoughts, like a sinister reminder of something I had encountered, something that would be better left in the past. I don't know what it was, but I will never return to that house, never leave it behind me again.